On an autumn morning in 1964, deep in a narrow alleyway of Hangzhou, a city once crowned the capital of the Southern Song dynasty, a baby cried into life. His name was Ma Yun, a name few would recognize then, but the world would one day come to know him as Jack Ma. Born into a humble family with no ties to power, no wealth, and certainly no political favor, Jack's origins were grounded in the soil of ordinary China. His parents, Ma Lifa and Cao Guifeng, were traditional folk performers of Pingtan, an ancient art of storytelling and ballad singing. The applause they earned on stage often didn't translate into stable income. They were artists, not merchants, dreamers, not planners. Jack's early life was framed by scarcity. His home had no refrigerator, no telephone, and sometimes not even enough rice to cook a proper meal. But what the Ma household lacked in material wealth, it made up for with an abundance of resilience and learning. From a young age, Jack was different. He was small, frail, and constantly bullied at school, not for mischief, but for how he looked. His classmates mocked him for his ugly features, large ears, a flat nose, and a tiny frame. But Jack was inwardly defiant. He had a wild imagination, a stubborn streak, and the ability to laugh at himself. He once said, "I'm not smart, I'm not good-looking, but I can outlast anyone." Yet his perseverance couldn't mask his academic struggles. From primary school, Jack was terrible at math, a subject that would ironically play a crucial role in his future. His grades were consistently low. Teachers dismissed him as a lost cause. Jack failed middle school exams. He failed high school placement tests. He even failed repeatedly to get into college. When people said, "Jack Ma is not made for academics," he silently agreed. Yet he refused to give up. In his heart, he carried the story of Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, a tale of an ordinary man who found a magic password to open a hidden cave of treasures. Jack believed that if he kept searching, he'd find that password for himself. In 1982, he took the college entrance exam for the first time. He failed. In 1983, he tried again. He failed again. In 1984, he made his third and final attempt, the last chance allowed by national policy. This time, thanks to the help of a friend who tutored him in math and relentless hours of study, he finally passed. Jack was accepted into the Hangzhou Normal University, majoring in English. He cried when the acceptance letter came, not from pride, but because it was the first door in life that hadn't slammed shut in his face. At university, Jack worked multiple jobs to support himself: waiter, tutor, even dubbing foreign films into Mandarin. But what made him stand out was his uncanny talent for languages. When other students struggled with basic English grammar, Jack conversed freely with foreign tourists. Every day, he rode his rusty bicycle 27 kilometers to Hangzhou's biggest hotel, not to earn tips, but to off. While his classmates slept in on weekends, Jack Ma would wake before dawn, hop on his worn-out bicycle, and ride 27 kilometers across Hangzhou. His destination wasn't a job or a school. It was the Hangzhou Hotel, one of the few places where foreign tourists stayed. There, with nothing but a smile and broken English, Jack would offer free tours to any foreigner willing to talk. "No money," he'd say. "I want to practice English." Some declined, some smiled politely, but many accepted, and those brief conversations became Jack's classroom. He guided them around West Lake, pointed at temples and bridges, and asked questions non-stop. He mispronounced words, mixed up tenses, but he never stopped speaking. He carried a small notebook, scribbling down every phrase, every correction, every new word. One Australian family he met became lifelong friends. They called him Jack, a name easier to pronounce than Ma Yun. He kept it. Back in his dorm, Jack listened to English tapes late into the night, labeling every item in his room with sticky notes: door, window, lamp. His passion was unusual. His classmates mocked him. Some called him crazy. But Jack didn't care. He wasn't learning for a test. He was preparing for a life far bigger than Hangzhou. By his third year, foreign tourists were asking for him by name. "Where's Jack?" they'd say at the hotel desk. Some brought him books, Others brought letters. Jack realized that even without money or status, he had something rare: connection. And with every ride, every conversation, the world that once seemed so far away began to feel a little closer. Jack wasn't just learning a language, he was building a bridge. Jack Ma graduated with pride in 1988, full of energy, dreams, and English fluency that few in China possessed at the time. But the world wasn't waiting for him with open arms. After college, he applied for dozens of jobs: hotel receptionist, office assistant, salesman, even at the police department. Each time, the result was the same: rejection. Some employers said he was too small, too awkward. At KFC, 24 people applied. 23 were hired. Jack was the only one left out. The world seemed to laugh at him once again. Eventually, he landed a job teaching English at a local college. His salary was just $12 a month, barely enough to live. But Jack loved it. His classroom was a stage, and his students were his world. He used humor, real-life examples, and his unique energy to turn every lesson into a performance. His students didn't just learn English, they learned to believe in themselves. Still, deep inside, Jack felt restless. He didn't want to just teach, he wanted to build something, to connect China with the world. He kept practicing English, kept writing to foreign friends, reading articles, dreaming beyond borders. Then, in 1995, an unexpected opportunity arrived. He was invited to the US to help a Chinese company recover a payment from an American partner. It wasn't glamorous, but it was his first time abroad. With excitement and nerves, Jack boarded a plane, holding tightly to a single hope. Maybe, just maybe, this trip would change everything. What he would discover there wasn't just a solution to a problem, it was a glimpse into the future. A thing called the Internet. In 1995, inside a small office in Seattle, Jack Ma saw the Internet for the first time. He typed China into the search engine. Nothing came up. He tried Chinese beer again. Nothing. It was like China didn't exist online, he later recalled. That moment hit him like lightning. Jack realized something powerful. If China isn't on the Internet, someone has to bring it there. Why not me? He returned to Hangzhou with a spark no one could see but him. Jack didn't know programming. He didn't know how websites worked. But he knew this was the future. With $2,000 borrowed from friends, he gathered a small team in his apartment. They had no computers, just a whiteboard, a phone line, and big ideas. Jack told them, "We're going to build China's first online business directory." His friends thought he was crazy. They named it China Pages. It was slow, clunky, and ahead of its time. Most Chinese companies didn't understand what a website was. Jack rode his bike from factory to factory, trying to explain the Internet using hand-drawn diagrams. Many slammed the door. But a few listened. Though China Pages earned attention, it struggled. Jack had no government backing, no technical edge, and soon big players like China Telecom moved in and took over. Jack was edged out of his own idea, but instead of quitting, he told himself, "I've seen the future. I just need to find the right way to get there." Jack knew failure. He had tasted rejection, poverty, and defeat. But in his mind, the future was glowing, made not of steel or concrete, but of connection. The Internet was not just technology. It was a bridge, and Jack Ma was determined to build it, brick by virtual brick. In 1999, Jack Ma gathered 17 friends into his modest Hangzhou apartment. The walls were cracked, the furniture mismatched, and there were only 2 working computers between them. But Jack stood tall, eyes glowing with conviction. He spoke for 2 straight hours, no slides, no charts, just one idea. Let's build an online marketplace where Chinese businesses can sell to the world. Some laughed, some doubted, but all stayed. That night, Alibaba was born. Jack believed small businesses were the soul of China, and the Internet was their way out. No tech skills, no problem. Alibaba would help them list their products, reach foreign buyers, and grow without middlemen. It was bold, it was crazy, and it was right. The early days were brutal. The team worked 16-hour days. They were broke. No one outside China believed in the idea. American investors laughed. Chinese officials were suspicious. At one point, Jack had to teach his own team English terms like e-commerce and email. When asked about failure, Jack famously said, "If we don't succeed, someone else will. But if we do, it changes everything." Slowly, small manufacturers joined. Then more, then hundreds. Jack didn't charge anyone for listings. He said, "Let the others make money. We build trust first." Years later, Alibaba would become one of the largest tech companies in the world. But in 1999, it was just one man's belief, 17 friends, and a cheap apartment that smelled like instant noodles and revolution. Jack wasn't trying to get rich. He was trying to prove something. You don't need power to create change, just vision, grit, and people crazy enough to believe in both. By 2003, Alibaba was growing, but not fast enough. Jack Ma saw something dangerous on the horizon. eBay, the American giant, was entering China. Backed by deep pockets and Silicon Valley experience, eBay quickly acquired EachNet, China's largest auction site at the time. Most thought it was game over, but not Jack. "eBay is a shark in the ocean," he told his team. "But I am a crocodile in the Yangtze River. If we fight in the river, we win." That year, Jack launched Taobao, a consumer-to-consumer platform designed to compete head-on with eBay. Unlike its rival, Taobao was free for users. It also spoke the language, literally and culturally. Jack's team redesigned the platform to reflect Chinese habits: brighter colors, personalized greetings, instant messaging between buyers and sellers. While eBay operated with cold formality, Taobao felt like a friendly neighborhood market. eBay underestimated Taobao. They kept applying their global playbook, ignoring local needs. Jack did the opposite. He listened to users, improved fast, and built trust where others built systems. Within 2 years, Taobao overtook eBay China in traffic and user loyalty. By 2006, eBay closed its China site. But the victory came at a price. Alibaba burned through cash. Jack had to make tough calls. In 2005, salvation came in the form of a $1 billion investment from Yahoo, which bought a 40% stake in Alibaba. It was controversial, but it gave Alibaba fuel to grow and room to breathe. Jack had beaten a giant, not with money, but with culture, speed, and empathy. Taobao wasn't just a business win, it was a message to the world. Chinese companies could lead, not follow. By 2014, Alibaba had transformed from a scrappy startup in a cramped Hangzhou apartment into a digital empire spanning e-commerce, logistics, cloud computing, and finance. With Taobao, Tmall, and Alipay all thriving, Jack Ma made a bold decision: take Alibaba public. But not in China, not in Hong Kong. He chose New York City, the heart of Western finance, for one of the most ambitious IPOs in history. Bankers doubted it. Critics warned the structure was too complex. Some questioned whether a Chinese company could ever command global investor trust. Jack didn't flinch. He toured Wall Street with his signature charisma, pitching Alibaba not just as a company, but as a mission: to empower small businesses through technology. "We're not an e-commerce company," he said. "We're a data company. We build infrastructure for the future." On September 19, 2014, the bell rang at the New York Stock Exchange. Jack Ma, in a tailored black suit, stood beaming among Alibaba executives. Alibaba's IPO raised $25 billion, the largest in global history. Jack became the richest man in China overnight, but money was never his focus. "Today is not about me getting rich," he told reporters. "It's about showing the world what China can build." The moment rippled far beyond finance. To Chinese entrepreneurs, it was proof that dreams could break borders. To global investors, it signaled that Chinese innovation had arrived. Jack didn't just ring a bell, he shook the ground beneath it. But with fame came pressure, regulation, criticism, political attention. Jack knew storms would come. Still, standing in New York that day, he smiled. Not as a billionaire, but as a teacher who proved that belief, not capital, builds the future. After Alibaba's record-breaking IPO in 2014, Jack Ma became a global icon. He was invited to speak at Davos, dine with world leaders, and lecture at top universities. He wasn't just China's richest man, he was its most recognized entrepreneur. But fame came with shadows. The higher Jack climbed, the more his voice echoed in places power didn't like. In 2020, Jack gave a speech criticizing China's financial regulators, accusing them of being too cautious and outdated. He called for bold reform, claiming the system stifled innovation. The words were fiery, confident, typical Jack. But this time, the audience wasn't a classroom of eager students. It was Beijing. Weeks later, Ant Group's IPO, a record-setting deal bigger than Alibaba's, was suddenly halted. Jack disappeared from public view. No interviews, no social media. Rumors swirled. Some feared arrest. Others whispered he had fled abroad. Months passed before he resurfaced, briefly, in a rural video about education. Jack stepped back. He resigned from Alibaba's board. He traveled, taught, and avoided headlines. It wasn't a fall. It was an exit, a silent one. His critics said he flew too close to the sun. His supporters said he lit it. Though quieter, Jack's influence remained. The platforms he built, Taobao, Alipay, Alibaba Cloud, continued to power millions of businesses. He had shown China and the world what entrepreneurship could look like. Messy, rebellious, human. Jack Ma didn't vanish. He simply returned to where he started, not with suits and speeches, but with classrooms and chalkboards. Not building empires, but nurturing minds. He had played his part. Now, it was time for the next dreamers to rise. Jack Ma no longer stands on global stages or rings stock market bells, but his influence ripples in places louder than applause, in classrooms, rural villages, and startup hubs across Asia. After stepping back from Alibaba, he didn't vanish, he transformed. Instead of chasing the next unicorn, he began planting seeds in soil others ignored. In 2019, he launched the Jack Ma Foundation, focusing on education, entrepreneurship, and environmental sustainability. He visited impoverished provinces, supporting teachers with grants and recognition. In one ceremony, he hugged a teary-eyed village schoolteacher and said, "I was once you." To Jack, education wasn't charity, it was strategy. If we want real change, we must start from the bottom, he often said. He also encouraged young entrepreneurs in Africa, India, and Southeast Asia. He flew to Nairobi and Mumbai, not with suits and speeches, but with stories of rejection, resilience, and rice noodle dinners. He listened, laughed, and told them, "Don't be Jack Ma, be yourself, but with crazy dreams." His voice softened, but his impact deepened. Jack believed the next generation of builders wouldn't come from boardrooms, but from villages, from girls with laptops, from farmers with Wi-Fi. He pushed for digital inclusion and supported green technologies long before they became buzzwords. Critics called him cautious, admirers called him wise. Jack just smiled. Now often seen in classrooms, wearing sneakers and a cardigan, helping students launch science projects or discussing philosophy. He said he'd return to teaching, and he did. Legacy isn't just what you build, it's what you leave behind that others build upon. Jack Ma didn't just lead a company, he inspired a generation to lead themselves. And in a quiet way, that may be the most powerful IPO of all. Today, Jack Ma walks with a lighter step. He's no longer the loudest voice in tech, nor the richest man in China, but perhaps he's more powerful in a quiet way. After decades in the spotlight, he now chooses silence. He travels between continents not for business deals, but for curiosity. Visiting agricultural projects in the Netherlands, marine conservation labs in Japan, and tiny schools in Tibetan plateaus. He's less a CEO, more a wandering scholar. In public, Jack rarely speaks. When he does, it's often about balance, between profit and purpose, speed and sustainability, ambition and wisdom. His hair has grayed, his laughter is softer, yet his gaze is sharp, still scanning the world with the eyes of a former teacher who never stopped learning. He has written essays on future education and rural development, quietly advising startups from behind the scenes. He's helped fund science programs, translated philosophy books, and even dabbled in calligraphy. A former showman, he now seeks meaning over momentum. The world around him has changed. The tech giants he once rivaled now face scrutiny, regulation, and the burden of scale. But Jack's biggest battles seem internal now, finding relevance beyond fame, rediscovering joy without applause. He once said, "The greatest failure is never daring." But now he whispers a new truth. The greatest success is knowing when to let go. At times, he returns to Hangzhou, walking quietly past the Alibaba campus. He watches young teams sprint toward futures he once dreamed of. He doesn't interrupt, he just smiles. Jack Ma's story is no longer about building companies. It's about rewriting what success means, not by shouting, but by listening. Not by scaling higher, but by sinking deeper. He began as a teacher. He became a legend. And now he returns to the simplest idea of all, sharing what you've learned and walking away with peace.